At 3:00 a.m., the big white house was so quiet that even the air felt afraid to move. The only sound in the whole mansion was water running in the kitchen sink. Billionaire Daniel Cole, wearing a gray hoodie and old sweatpants, walked down the long hallway with a glass in his hand, planning to drink some water and go back to his lonely bed. But when he reached the open doorway of his huge, shining kitchen, he stopped. His hand went cold around the glass. A small girl was standing on a stool in front of the sink, her thin shoulders shaking as she scrubbed a tower of dirty plates. Her hands were red and tired, and her feet were bare on the cold tile floor. It was Lily, his housekeeper's 10-year-old daughter. A kitchen cloth was tied around her tiny waist like an adult apron. Dark circles sat under her eyes, and every time a plate slipped, she jumped like she was scared someone would shout. She was supposed to be sleeping. She was supposed to be in school in the morning. Instead, she was here washing dishes at 3 in the morning like a secret worker in a home that did not belong to her. Daniel was a man who made billions by reading people and knowing when someone was lying. He saw it right away. This was not helping her mother. This was fear. This was a secret. And whatever truth this little girl was hiding had already stolen more from her than sleep. Hi friends, welcome to today's story. Before we go deeper, please like this video and subscribe so you don't miss our powerful stories that can change how you see people around you. Also, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Drop your location below so we can greet you in the next story. Now let's go back to where this long night really started. Earlier that same day, the sun had been bright over the city, bouncing off the glass walls of Cole Towers, the tall building that carried Daniel's last name at the very top. People in suits rushed in and out of the revolving doors, holding coffee cups, phones, and stress in their hands. On the 42nd floor, Daniel sat at a long black desk in an office with a view that looked like it belonged in a movie. Cars were tiny dots. People were little moving lines. The city looked like a toy he could pick up and put down if he wanted. His assistant Jonah knocked softly and stepped in, holding a tablet. "Good morning, sir," Jonah said. "You have the board meeting at 9, the charity call at 10, and the school email you asked me to print out." The word school made Daniel's jaw tight. "Put it there," he said, nodding at the corner of the desk. His voice was calm, but his eyes were not. When Jonah left, Daniel picked up the printed email with 2 fingers like it was something dirty from the floor. It was from Oakview Elementary School. He read it again even though he had already read it once on his phone. "Dear Mr. Cole," it said. "We are writing to inform you that your staff member's child, Lily Miller, has been absent from school several times this month. We are concerned about her missed classes. Please ask her parent to contact the school as soon as possible." At the bottom, there were dates. Long lines of dates. Too many dates for a 10-year-old girl. He stared at them until the black ink almost blurred. Kids should be in school. Kids should be laughing, running, drawing pictures, not missing class. Not again. His throat felt tight. He closed his eyes and saw another face, younger, softer, with the same dark brown eyes that looked up at him and said, "Dad, if I miss more school, they'll call you." His late daughter Emily had said that once when she was sick, just before everything changed. The doctors had promised one thing. Life had given him another. She never made it back to her classroom. Her empty seat had lived in his mind ever since. That was why this email made his stomach twist. He could not stand the idea of a child, any child, falling behind in school while he sat in a glass tower counting money. He had hired Rosa Miller, Lily's mother, because she was hardworking and quiet. She cleaned his house like it was a job she was grateful for, not a job she was stuck in. She never asked for more, she never complained. She never brought her problems into his world. He had barely ever spoken to Lily. She was like a soft shadow that moved behind Rosa, carrying a book or a backpack, always polite, never loud. He had noticed that she loved to draw on napkins when she thought no one was looking. He had noticed she always said thank you in a small voice. But he had not noticed she was missing school, and that bothered him. Daniel picked up his pen and tapped it against the desk. He could have ignored the email. Many rich people would. It was not his child. It was not his life. He could have simply told Human Resources to send a warning to the staff and wash his hands of it. But something in his chest refused to stay quiet. He picked up the phone instead and called home. The call rang for a moment before the old landline in his kitchen picked up. "Hello, Cole residence," a woman's voice answered. It was Rosa with her warm, careful tone. "It's Daniel," he said. "Are you at the house?" "Yes, sir," she answered quickly. "Is everything okay? Do you need something from the house?" "I got a message from the school about your daughter," he said. "They say she has missed many days. We will talk about it when I come home. I want to understand what is going on. Children need to be in school." On the other end of the line, there was silence. He could almost hear her breathing. Then she said, "Yes, sir, I understand. We can talk." Her voice sounded smaller than usual, like it had been pushed down into a tight space. "Good," he said. "We'll speak tonight." He ended the call before she could say anything else. All day as he fought through meetings and numbers and faces, the thought stayed stuck in his head like a splinter. Why was Lily skipping school? Was Rosa careless? Was someone sick? Was there trouble at home? Around lunchtime, he walked past the big window and saw his reflection in the glass. Tall, strong, expensive suit, neat hair, cold eyes. You built an empire, he told himself inside his mind, but you still could not keep one child alive. The memory stabbed him, but he kept walking. He had learned how to work with pain sitting beside him like a quiet partner. When the day finally ended and the sky outside turned orange and purple, Daniel drove home in the back of his black car watching the city move. Office lights turned off. Street lights woke up. People walked with their families, holding hands, laughing. He watched them like he was watching a movie he did not belong in. His home sat high on a hill with a long driveway lined with trees and soft lights along the ground. It looked perfect. It looked calm. It looked like a place where nothing bad could ever happen. But he knew better. Bad things did not ask for permission before stepping into pretty houses. Inside, the house smelled like roasted chicken and fresh bread. Rosa had cooked dinner as always. The dining table was set for him alone. Rosa stood in the corner, hands folded, apron tied around her waist. Lily peeked from behind her mother's arm, holding a small notebook to her chest. Daniel noticed at once how tired the child looked. Her hair was in 2 short braids, but the ends were messy like someone had rushed while doing them. Her school shirt was a little wrinkled. There was a tiny ink stain on the pocket, but what grabbed him most were her eyes. They looked older than 10. "Good evening, sir," Rosa said. "Good evening," Daniel replied. He sat down at the table. "Lily," he said, looking at the girl, "come here for a moment." Lily stepped forward slowly, clutching her notebook with both hands. "Yes, sir," she whispered. "I got a message from your school," he said. "They said you've been absent many times this month." He kept his voice steady but firm. "Is that true?" Lily's fingers tightened around the notebook. Her eyes flicked up to his face, then down to the floor. "I'm sorry, sir," she said. Her voice shook. I missed some days." "Some?" he asked. The school listed many. "Why?" Rosa quickly stepped forward. "Sir, please," she said, her hands twisting in her apron. "It is my fault. Sometimes we have problems. She had to stay home on some days. I will fix it, I promise." "What kind of problems?" Daniel asked. "Money, health. Why didn't you say something? There are rules in this house. The children of staff must be in school. I am not just your employer in this building, Rosa. When you work under my roof, I need to know if something this serious is happening to your child." Rosa swallowed and looked at Lily for a second, like she was asking her for silent permission to talk. Lily's head shook just a tiny bit, but Daniel saw it. That small, scared motion set off an alarm in his mind. "We just had some family issues, sir," Rosa said softly. "Nothing for you to worry about." He did not like that answer. It was too small, too neat, like someone had wrapped a giant mess in a tiny piece of paper. "Make sure it doesn't continue," he said. His tone came out harsher than he planned. "Lily, school is not something you can just skip. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Lily whispered. Her eyes shone like tears were trying to climb out but were afraid to fall. Rosa put a hand on her daughter's shoulder, squeezing gently. "She understands, sir," she said. "We will do better." Daniel wanted to push harder. He wanted to ask more questions, but something in him pulled back. Maybe it was the memory of hospital rooms. Maybe it was the way Lily's small shoulders curved inward as if she was already carrying more than she should. He chose for that moment to let it drop. "Fine," he said. "We'll talk again if the school writes me once more." He picked up his fork and started eating. Rosa went back to the kitchen. Lily slipped away like a ghost, her small footsteps almost silent on the polished floor. The rest of the evening passed in the usual quiet. The house staff cleaned the kitchen, folded napkins, wiped counters, and disappeared to their own small rooms at the back of the house. Daniel went to his study, looked at more numbers, pretended to read, and stared at an old frame on his shelf with a picture of him and Emily in a park, both of them laughing. Sometimes he pulled the frame closer, sometimes he turned it face down. Tonight, he left it standing straight, watching him like a question he still could not answer. Around midnight, the house was dark and still. The security cameras blinked their tiny lights. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. Daniel tried to sleep but kept waking up. The email from the school mixed with his memories. He thought of little girls who did not show up to class and fathers who did not show up at all until it was too late. Around 3 in the morning, he gave up on sleep. He got out of bed, pulled on his hoodie, and decided to go down for some water. Maybe walking through the house would calm his mind. He walked down the long, quiet hallway past paintings and tall windows. The sound reached him before the light did, a soft clinking of plates, water running. Something fell with a small clatter, followed by a sharp little gasp. Daniel slowed his steps. At this hour, everyone should have been sleeping. Even the cleaners had their assigned times. 3 a.m. was not one of them. He reached the open kitchen doorway and stopped. The big room was half lit by the under-cabinet lights, casting a warm glow over the marble countertops and shiny appliances. In the middle of this fancy picture stood Lily, tiny and tired, on a wooden stool in front of the sink. Her hair was loose now, hanging around her face in messy waves. She wore an oversized t-shirt that almost reached her knees and a pair of old pajama shorts. The sleeves were rolled up, but still wet from the soapy water. Her little hands moved fast, scrubbing plates, rinsing them, stacking them. Her arms shook from the effort. A small bucket sat on the floor beside her with more dishes inside it, like she had brought them from somewhere else in the house. Daniel's eyes swept the room. The counters were already spotless. The table was clear. There was no reason for this many dirty dishes at this hour, not unless someone had been hiding them, not unless someone had been taking food where it was not supposed to go. His mind clicked into work mode the same way it did when he walked into a boardroom and smelled a lie. He stepped inside, his bare feet making almost no sound on the floor. But the moment he spoke, Lily jumped. "Lily," he said quietly, but his deep voice still filled the room. The plate in her hand slipped. It crashed into the sink with a loud bang but did not break. Lily gasped and spun around, almost losing her balance on the stool. For a second, he was sure she would fall. He rushed forward, his hand reaching out just in time to grab her arm and steady her. Her skin felt cold and thin under his fingers. "Careful," he said, keeping his voice soft now. "You could hurt yourself." "I'm sorry, sir," she blurted out. Her chest rose and fell fast. Her eyes were wide and shiny. I'm sorry, I'll finish quickly, I promise. Please don't be mad, please." "I'm not angry," he said slowly, even though confusion and worry churned inside him. "But I do want to know what you're doing here at this hour. Why are you washing dishes in the middle of the night? Where is your mother?" "She's sleeping," Lily whispered. She looked toward the back hallway where the staff rooms were. "She was very tired. I wanted to help. These are just some plates we forgot to do earlier." It was a weak story. Even a kind stranger would hear the hole in it. Daniel heard more than a hole. He heard fear. He looked at the dishes stacked beside her. Some had bits of food he recognized from dinner. Others had something else, tiny grains of rice mixed with sauce he did not remember seeing on his own plate. There were more glasses than the people who had eaten in the house that night. His brain started counting without meaning to. 2 glasses at his table, one for him, one extra in case he wanted something else. One for Rosa when he had told her to eat after she served him. That made 3. But he could see at least 7 glasses in the drying rack. "Those are not just forgotten plates," he said quietly. "Lily, look at me." She lifted her face slowly. Tears sat on her lower lashes, waiting. He could see now that her eyes were red as if she had been crying before he came. "I'm only going to ask this once," Daniel said. His voice stayed calm but firm. "Why are you washing all of these dishes at 3 in the morning, and why have you been missing school?" Her lips trembled. She gripped the edge of the sink so hard her knuckles turned white. "I'm just helping my mom," she said again, almost like she was reading from a script. "I'm sorry I missed school. I was not feeling well some days." He let go of her arm and stepped back a little, looking at her as if she were one of the difficult contracts he had to sign. "You're not telling me the truth," he said, "and that is a problem." "I am," she insisted, but her voice was so small it sounded like someone else. He sighed slowly and looked around the kitchen again. That was when he noticed it. Under the edge of the island, behind one of the tall chairs, there was a small backpack. It was unzipped with a corner of paper sticking out. It was not where a child would normally leave her bag for the next day. It was hidden as if it had been dropped quickly when someone heard footsteps. Daniel walked around the island and picked up the backpack. Lily made a tiny sound in her throat, like a squeak. "Please, sir, you don't have to." "I do," he replied. He opened the bag and looked inside. There were school books, a pencil case, and crumpled pieces of paper. On top was a folded note from the school with the same logo as the email he had received. He opened it and scanned the words. It spoke of continued absence and concern for the child's learning. At the bottom, someone had written in pen, "Rosa, please come in. We need to speak in person." The date was from 3 days ago. Under that letter there was another paper. This one was not from the school, it was from a clinic in a poorer part of town. The paper was old and creased, but the words were clear. Payment due, final notice. At the bottom in bold letters it said, if payment is not received, treatment will be stopped. There was a number written there. It was not large to a man like Daniel, but to someone like Rosa or a little girl washing dishes at 3 in the morning, it was a mountain. He felt his chest tighten. He looked back at Lily. What is this? He asked, holding up the paper. Whose bill is this? Lily's face went pale. For a second, all the fight left her shoulders. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes shone again, her hands twisted in the wet cloth of her t-shirt. It's nothing, sir, she said quickly. Please, I'll pay it. I promise I'll fix it. You don't have to. You will pay it? He repeated, his eyebrows lifting. You are 10 years old, Lily. How are you going to pay a clinic bill? Silence filled the room like thick smoke. The faucet kept running behind her, water hitting the sink and splashing. A single plate slid down into the water with a soft splash, but neither of them looked at it. Are you missing school to work? Daniel asked carefully. Is someone making you do this? Are you in trouble? At his questions, Lily's whole body flinched. She shook her head fast. No, sir, she said, but her voice cracked like a weak branch. I'm not working, I just help my mom, that's all. Please don't fire her, please don't yell at her, she doesn't know I'm here. There it was, the truth slipped out with her fear. She had just said the one thing he needed to hear. She doesn't know I'm here. Daniel's jaw clenched. So your mother is not the one who asked you to wash dishes at 3 in the morning, he said slowly. You decided to do this alone. Lily nodded, then shook her head, then nodded again, like her mind could not decide which answer would hurt less. I'm just trying to help, she whispered. The food, the extra plates, we don't waste it. And the dishes need to be clean so no one gets in trouble. If everything looks perfect, no one will ask questions. Questions about what? He asked. She bit her lip, a tear escaped and rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away with the back of her wet hand, leaving a soapy streak on her face. I can't say, she whispered. If I tell, everything will get worse. Daniel had faced angry investors, lawsuits, harsh interviews. He had looked people in the eye when they tried to cheat him out of millions. But this small, shaking girl who could barely keep her balance on a wooden stool scared him in a new way. She was a reminder that not every problem in life could be solved with money and hard rules. Some problems were hiding behind quiet eyes that refused to speak. He took a deep breath and lowered his voice even more. Lily, he said, I am not your enemy. I am not here to hurt you or your mother, but you cannot carry something this big alone. You are missing school. You are working in the middle of the night. There are clinic bills in your bag. Someone is sick. Who is it? Her hands dropped to her sides. Her shoulders sagged as if the words themselves were heavy. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. A tiny sound came out of her throat like a trapped sob. For a second, he thought she would tell him everything. He saw it in her eyes, the way they filled with pain that wanted out, but then something else flashed there too, fear, deep and strong. She swallowed hard. I can't, she said. I made a promise. To who? He asked. Before she could answer, a cough echoed down the hallway. It was soft but rough, like someone's throat was made of sandpaper. It did not come from his room. It did not come from the guest room. It came from the small hallway that led to the staff quarters and the tiny storage room where extra cleaning supplies were kept. Daniel's head snapped toward the sound. Lily froze, all the color drained from her face. No, she whispered under her breath, please, not now. He looked back at her, then at the dark hallway. His mind started putting the pieces together. Extra plates, hidden backpack, clinic bill, missing school, a sick person, food that needed to disappear before morning, a cough in the storage hallway. Who is back there? He asked quietly. No one, Lily said quickly, too quickly. It's just the pipes, they make sound sometimes. The cough came again. Louder this time, followed by a weak groan. It was not a pipe, it was a person. A small chill ran down Daniel's back. He stepped away from the island and started walking toward the hallway. Lily's eyes went wide. She jumped down from the stool, water dripping from her hands, and ran after him. Sir, please, she begged, grabbing the edge of his sleeve. You don't have to go there, it's late. Please just go back to bed. I'll finish here, I promise I'll be quiet. He gently pulled his sleeve out of her grip. "Move behind me, Lily," he said. His voice was calm, but his heart was beating harder now. "If someone is in my house without my permission, I need to know who it is." "It's not what you think," she cried softly. "Please don't be mad, please don't call the police, please don't send us away." Her words told him even more than she meant to. There was definitely someone there, someone who should not be, someone she was willing to risk everything to protect. He kept walking, the hallway lights blinking on as he moved. The walls here were plain, not like the front part of the house. Doors lined one side, the tiny rooms for staff, the laundry area, the storage closet at the very end. The cough came again, muffled now, like whoever it was had turned their face into a pillow. Daniel stopped in front of the storage door. His hand hovered over the handle. Behind him, he could hear Lily breathing fast, choking on her own panic. "Please," she whispered one more time, her voice cracking, "please don't open it." But he had already made his choice. A man who built a life on facts and truth could not turn away from a closed door with this many secrets behind it. He wrapped his fingers around the cold metal handle, turned it slowly, and pushed the door open. The small room smelled like cleaning products, old boxes, and something else, medicine and sweat. In the faint light from the hallway, Daniel could see shapes on the floor. Blankets, a thin mattress, a small body lying under a pile of covers, shaking with every breath. A pale hand stuck out from the blanket, an elastic band still around the wrist from some clinic visit. On top of a crate beside the mattress sat a plastic bag with pill bottles inside and a glass half full of water. Daniel's eyes widened as they tried to understand what he was seeing. This was not just a messy closet, it was a hidden room someone had turned into a sick person's bed, in his house, without his knowledge. Behind him, Lily let out a sound that was half sob, half whisper. "I'm sorry," she cried. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know what else to do." Daniel's throat went dry as he stared at the small figure under the blanket, listening to the weak, painful cough that shook the thin body again. His mind raced with questions. Who was this child? Or was it an adult? How long had they been here? How had he, a man who noticed when a client lied about a single number, missed a whole person living inside his own home? Just then, the figure on the floor shifted and a soft voice, hoarse and tired, floated into the hallway. "Lily," the voice whispered, "is that you?" Daniel turned toward Lily, shocked. She stood in the doorway, tears running down her face, lips pressed together so hard they almost disappeared. He realized, with a cold, heavy feeling in his chest, that he was finally looking at the real reason a 10-year-old girl was washing dishes at 3 in the morning and skipping school. But he still didn't know who this person was or how far Lily had already gone to keep this secret alive. Daniel stood inside the doorway of the storage room, his breath caught halfway between anger and disbelief. The thin mattress on the floor shifted again, and the small figure under the blanket turned slightly, letting out a weak, broken cough that sounded like fire scraping through dry leaves. The air in the little room felt tight, too warm, too heavy, full of a pain that did not belong in a billionaire's mansion. Behind him, Lily pressed both hands against her mouth to stop her crying, but the small, desperate sound still shook her body. Daniel had seen many things in his lifetime: cheaters, manipulators, struggling families, broken dreams, but he had never expected to open a door in his own house and find a sick child hiding behind it like a secret shame. He stepped closer slowly, afraid to startle the figure on the mattress. The blanket moved again and a small face peeked out. A boy no older than 7 or 8 with dark hair stuck to his forehead and a pale face that looked like it had forgotten what sunlight felt like. The boy blinked weakly when the hallway light touched his eyes. Then he looked up and saw Lily, and his expression softened with a sad, tired kind of relief. "You came back," he whispered, his voice cracked and thin like paper. Lily rushed past Daniel and dropped to her knees beside the mattress, wiping her tears as she gently touched the boy's cheek. "I'm sorry," she whispered back. "I didn't mean to take so long. I had to finish the dishes before Mom woke up." Daniel felt something sharp twist inside his chest as he watched her small hand brush crumbs off the blanket, smoothing it like a nurse who had been doing this her whole life. He looked down at the boy more carefully, at his trembling fingers, the bruise-like shadows under his eyes, the way his breathing came in shallow, uneven pulls. And suddenly everything in Daniel's mind clicked into place like a puzzle snapping shut. The extra plates, the hidden backpack, the missing school days, the clinic bill. The late-night dishwashing, the fear. This boy was the reason. He had been here inside Daniel's house, sick, hiding, needing help, and Lily had been the one caring for him, carrying a burden 10 times too heavy for her small shoulders. The room felt smaller now, the truth pressing against every wall. Daniel knelt slowly beside them, trying not to frighten the boy. "What's your name?" he asked gently. The boy flinched but did not speak. Lily reached for Daniel's sleeve, gripping it with trembling fingers. "Please," she whispered urgently, "don't ask him too many questions. He gets scared." Her voice cracked again. "Please don't call the police. Please don't be mad at him. He didn't do anything wrong." Daniel's heart pounded hard. He looked at the boy, really looked at him, and then he turned his eyes back to Lily. "I am not here to hurt him," he said carefully, "but I need to understand what's happening in my house. You can't hide a sick child in a storage room. It's dangerous. He needs real care." At the word care, Lily's eyes dropped to the floor as if she had heard it too many times from too many people who never meant it. She wiped her cheeks with her palm and whispered, "His name is Noah." The boy closed his eyes like hearing his own name hurt him. "He's 7, she said softly, "and he's my cousin." Daniel blinked. "A cousin?" He turned to Lily, searching her face. "Your cousin, that means," he paused. "Where are his parents?" The question hung in the air like something sharp enough to cut. Lily bit her lip until it almost bled, her hands twisted together as she stared at the floor. "His mom is gone," she whispered. "She died last year." That word "died" landed inside Daniel like a stone thrown into deep water. It stirred echoes he had buried long ago: hospital hallways, cold hands, last breaths, goodbyes that came too early. He forced himself out of the memory and focused on her again. "And his father?" he asked, even though he already sensed the answer. She shook her head slowly. "He left before Noah was born." Daniel closed his eyes for a second, trying to steady his breathing. He opened them again and looked around the cramped room. Blankets, pill bottles, a small, empty food wrapper crumpled under the mattress. "You brought him here," Daniel said quietly, "but why hide him?" Lily looked up at him, and her eyes, big, brown, and drowning in fear, met his with a truth she had been carrying alone for too long. "Because he was going to be taken," she whispered. "They said they would put him in a place far away." "Who said that?" Daniel asked. "The people from the shelter," she said. "They said Aunt Clara couldn't pay her hospital bills before she died. They said Noah needed placement. They said they have too many kids already. They said he might be moved to different places if no one took him." Her voice broke. "I didn't want him to go somewhere scary. He's all I have. He's my only family besides Mom, so I hid him. I snuck him in one night when Mom was cleaning the upstairs rooms." She pressed a hand to her face and sobbed softly. "I know it was wrong. I know I shouldn't have done it, but he was coughing so much and he was shaking and I got scared. I didn't know where else to take him." Daniel's chest felt tight again, but this time it wasn't anger. It was something heavier, heavier than anything money could measure. He remembered his own daughter coughing in a hospital bed, remembered feeling powerless even with all his billions. He swallowed hard and asked, "How long has he been here?" Lily hesitated. She looked at Noah, then at the floor. 2 weeks. Daniel's hand clenched into a fist. 2 weeks. 2 weeks a sick child had been hiding in his house, hoping no one would notice. 2 weeks Lily had been missing school, working nights, cleaning evidence, sneaking food, and lying to protect someone she loved. 2 weeks she had been carrying a secret big enough to break most adults. He turned back to Noah. The boy's eyes were half closed now, his breathing thin. Daniel touched the boy's hand gently. It was hot, too hot, fever, high fever, dangerous fever. Daniel felt panic rise in his chest, but he controlled it. He stood up quickly and said, "Lily, pack his things now, we are taking him to a hospital." "No," Lily cried, grabbing Noah protectively. "Please, you can't. They'll take him away if you do. They'll call the shelter, they'll call someone, they'll say we're hiding him. Please, sir, please don't let them take him." Her voice was a whisper and a scream together. She held Noah like a mother holds her last child. Tears streamed down her face. "If he goes there, he will get worse. Please, sir, I'll do anything, just don't let him go." Daniel stared at her trembling figure. He stared at the sick boy. He stared at the evidence of a life spent fighting alone, and something inside him shifted, softened, woke up. Not the billionaire, not the businessman. Not the man people feared in boardrooms, but the father he used to be. He knelt again, looked Lily right in the eyes, and said quietly, "Listen to me. I am not letting anyone take him away, but he needs medical help, real help. You can't fight this alone. I won't report anything. I won't call the shelter. I won't call the police. But I am taking him to a doctor I trust." Lily's shoulders sagged with relief so heavy it almost made her fall. She nodded slowly, wiping her face. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." She turned back to Noah and squeezed his hand gently. "We're going to get help," she whispered to him. Noah blinked slowly, his tired eyes drifting toward Daniel. Daniel stood again and pulled out his phone. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from anger at the world for putting a child in this kind of danger. He dialed a number. A woman answered on the second ring. "Dr. Hayes," she said. "It's Daniel," he replied. "I need you at my house immediately. No questions. Bring everything you need for a child with a fever and a possible respiratory infection." The doctor paused. "Daniel, it's 3 in the morning." "I know," he said. "I wouldn't call unless it was important, and this is important." "I'll be there in 20 minutes," she said. He hung up and turned back to Lily. She was folding blankets, gathering Noah's small pile of belongings with careful hands. Her movements were shaking, slow but determined. Noah coughed again, curling into himself with a small whimper that made Daniel's throat close. He couldn't help it. He crouched beside the boy and brushed a hand over his forehead. "You're going to be okay," he said quietly. "I promise." The boy looked up at him with big, frightened eyes. Are you mad at me?" he whispered. Daniel felt something crack inside him. "No," he said softly, "not at all." As Lily gathered Noah's things, Daniel suddenly heard another voice from behind, a tired, confused voice. "Sir." He turned. Rosa stood in the hallway, still half asleep, her apron wrinkled from sleep, her eyes wide with shock as she took in the scene. "What is happening?" she whispered. She stepped inside the doorway and gasped when she saw Noah. "Oh my God," she breathed. "No, no," she covered her mouth with both hands. Tears filled her eyes instantly. "Lily, how could you?" She turned to Daniel with shaking hands. "Sir, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Please, please don't fire me. Please don't call anyone. I will fix this. I didn't know she brought him here." Lily dropped the blanket and ran to her mother, clinging to her apron. "I'm sorry, Mom," she cried. "I'm so sorry. I didn't want him to be alone. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want him taken away from us." Rosa's knees buckled and she sank to the floor with her daughter in her arms, crying into her hair. Daniel looked at them both, feeling a wave of emotion rise inside him, something painful, something protective, something he had not allowed himself to feel in a long time. He took a deep breath and said quietly, "I'm not firing you, and I'm not calling anyone, but this situation ends tonight." Rosa nodded quickly, crying harder now. "Yes, sir, yes, thank you, thank you." 20 minutes later, the doctor arrived. She walked quickly through the door, 2 bags in her hands. When she saw Noah, she went straight into professional mode. She checked his breathing, his fever, his pulse, his lungs. The small room filled with the soft sounds of medical tools and the doctor's calm voice. She frowned as she listened to Noah's chest. "His lungs are inflamed," she said. "He's been sick for a while." She looked at Daniel. "He needs proper rest and medication. I can handle most of it here tonight. But tomorrow morning, he needs tests, blood work, x-rays. We need to see how bad this is." Daniel nodded. "Do whatever you need to do." The doctor mixed medicine, started a mild breathing treatment, and placed a cool cloth on Noah's forehead. Lily sat beside her cousin, holding his hand and whispering softly to him. Rosa stood in the doorway, hands covering her mouth, shaking silently. Daniel stood nearby, watching everything with sharp, worried eyes. After a few minutes, Noah's breathing eased a little. His body relaxed. The doctor looked at Daniel again. "You did the right thing calling me," she said. "Another night like this could have gone very wrong." Daniel felt a cold wave run through him. He nodded slowly. She packed her tools and left instructions for the night. Lily listened carefully to every word, memorizing each step. Daniel noticed how responsible she was, how much she loved this boy, how much she had already sacrificed. When the doctor left, the house went quiet again. Noah was sleeping now, breathing deeper and steadier. Lily sat by his side, her hair messy, her cheeks stained with dried tears. Rosa stood behind her, hand on her daughter's shoulder. Daniel looked at the two of them, the mother blaming herself, the daughter blaming herself even more. And he felt something shift again inside him, deeper this time. He stepped forward and said quietly, "Tomorrow morning we'll figure out the rest. I'll help him. I'll help both of you." Lily looked up slowly. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you help us?" Daniel swallowed hard. He looked at her, at this small, brave, exhausted girl who had tried to carry a whole world on her tiny back, and he said the one truth he had kept buried for years. Because once I couldn't save my own child, and I will not stand by and watch another one suffer. Lily's eyes filled again, but this time with something softer, hope. She opened her mouth to speak, but Noah stirred on the mattress. She quickly turned back to him, smoothing his blanket, holding his hand gently. Daniel stepped back, watching them quietly. This night had started with confusion, then anger, then fear, but now it felt like the beginning of something else, something he could not yet name. One thing was certain, nothing in this house was ever going to be the same again. Morning light slid slowly across the city, touching the tops of buildings, waking up streets, and turning windows into sheets of gold. But inside Daniel's house, time felt stuck somewhere between night and day. He had not gone back to sleep. Instead, he had sat in a chair in the hallway outside the small storage room, listening to the soft sounds of Noah's breathing and the occasional rustle of blankets. Once or twice, he heard Lily shift, whispering something gentle to her cousin in the dark. His hoodie was still on, his hair a little messy and his eyes heavy, but his mind was wide awake. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw two children in his head, not just Noah and Lily, but Emily too, with her bright smile and tired eyes near the end. The memory hurt, but this time, instead of pushing it away, he let it stay. Maybe that pain was the reason he had opened that door. The reason he could not stand still anymore while a child fought alone. When dawn finally came, the sky turning pale gray, Daniel stood up and stretched his stiff legs. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that comes right before a busy day starts. He walked to the guest room that he had told the staff to prepare while the doctor worked in the night. There he found clean sheets, a soft pillow, and sunlight waiting behind the curtains. This was where Noah would stay now, not on a hard floor in a storage closet. He went back to the small room, and his heart squeezed when he saw Lily lying on the floor beside the mattress, her head resting on her folded arm, still holding Noah's hand even in sleep. Rosa sat slumped against the wall, her head tilted back, eyes closed, face tired from crying. Daniel cleared his throat softly. Rosa's eyes opened and she sat up fast. "Sir," she whispered, quickly wiping her face, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to fall asleep. It's fine," he said gently. "You both need rest." He looked at Noah, who was still sleeping, his breathing a little less rough thanks to the medicine the doctor had given him. "We're moving him to the guest room. After that, we take him for tests. The doctor will meet us at the clinic." Rosa nodded, pushing herself up with shaking legs. "Yes, sir," she said. She looked at her daughter with a mix of love and worry. "Lily, wake up, my love," she whispered, touching her shoulder. Lily stirred, rubbed her eyes, and blinked up at them. For 1 second she looked confused, then everything came back in a rush. Her eyes flew to Noah. When she saw him still breathing, still there, her shoulders dropped with relief. "Is he okay?" she asked, her voice scratchy. "He's stable for now," Daniel said, "but we need to move him. He can't stay here. It's too small, too cold, and it's not safe." Lily nodded quickly. "I'll carry his bag," she said, already reaching for the small backpack in the corner. Daniel bent down and gently lifted the boy, careful not to shake him too much. Noah's head fell against Daniel's chest, warm with fever but trusting in that half-sleep way sick children have when they know someone stronger is holding them. For a moment Daniel froze, feeling the weight of the boy in his arms, remembering another small body he used to carry when nightmares woke her up at night. He swallowed hard and focused on the present. They walked down the hallway together, Daniel carrying Noah, Rosa and Lily following close behind. The guest room looked bright and soft when they entered, with fresh white sheets and a big window that let in the early morning light. Daniel laid Noah carefully on the bed, smoothing the blanket over him. Lily moved around quickly, putting his small bag in the corner, lining his pill bottles neatly on the bedside table like a tiny nurse. Rosa stood near the door, wringing her hands. "Sir," she began, voice trembling, "I don't know how to thank you. I know what Lily did was wrong, sneaking him in here, hiding him. I should have been watching better. I should have." Daniel turned to her. "You should not have had to face this alone," he said quietly. "That's what should have happened. You should have had help long before now." Rosa covered her face and tried not to cry again. "I didn't want to ask for too much," she whispered. "You already gave me a job, you already let Lily stay here after school sometimes. I thought if I kept my head down and worked hard, maybe God would make a way somehow. I didn't want to risk losing everything by asking for more." Lily walked over to them, her face serious, eyes still too old for her age. "It's my fault," she said. "I took Noah from the shelter place. They said they would take him far away to a home with too many kids. I got scared. I thought if I brought him here at least he would be near me and Mom. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know how else to save him." Daniel looked at her for a long moment. "What you did was dangerous," he said softly, "but it came from love. You were trying to save your cousin. You should not have been put in a place where you had to make that choice." There was a knock on the front door down the hall, and one of the other staff members hurried to open it. The sound of calm footsteps followed. Dr. Hayes appeared in the doorway a moment later, dressed in simple clothes, her hair pulled back, a tired but kind look in her eyes. "Good morning," she said quietly, "or what's left of it." She walked straight over to Noah, bedside, and checked his temperature again. "Still high," she murmured. "We need to get him in for scans and tests. Are you ready to go?" Daniel nodded. "The car is outside," he said. He turned to Lily and Rosa. "You're coming too." Lily's eyes widened with fear. "If we go to the clinic," she whispered, "will they call the shelter people?" The doctor looked up surprised. "Shelter?" she asked. "What shelter?" Daniel answered before Rosa could. "There was talk of him being placed somewhere," he said briefly. "We'll talk about it in the car. For now, we move." They wrapped Noah in a warm blanket and carried him out to the car. The morning air was cool and the sky was a soft pale blue. The city was just waking up, buses rolling, people hurrying, shops opening their doors. But for Daniel, the world outside felt far away, like a picture behind glass. All that mattered right now was the small child in the back seat and the girl holding his hand. Lily sat between Noah and her mother, one arm around her cousin, the other hand gripping his fingers. Rosa held a small plastic bag with his medicine bottles and a folded paper from the clinic. Daniel sat in the front seat, his face set in a calm mask, but his hands were tight on his knees. As the car moved through traffic, the doctor spoke softly, mostly to Daniel. She talked about possible infections, about lungs and oxygen, about how children can hide how bad they feel until it becomes an emergency. Daniel nodded at all the right times, but inside his mind replayed the last time he sat in a car rushing a child to a hospital. He remembered Emily's small hand in his, the way she had stared out the window and said, "The trees look like they're waving goodbye." He had laughed then, telling her not to say things like that because she was going to be fine. The doctors had said it was just a complication, a setback, nothing they couldn't manage. They had been wrong. He had been wrong to trust that everything would just fix itself because he had money. Now, sitting in this car with another sick child, he made a silent promise inside his heart. "I will not be careless this time. I will not arrive too late." At the clinic, they moved quickly. Nurses helped carry Noah inside. Papers were signed, vitals were checked. Lily and Rosa sat in the waiting area on a long bench, their hands still joined. Daniel stayed near the door of the small examination room, watching as Noah was placed on a hospital bed and connected to monitors. Dr. Hayes spoke with another doctor, a young man with kind eyes and a tired smile, who came in to help read the scans. "His lungs show a strong infection," the younger doctor said after a while, pointing at a screen. "Looks like pneumonia that's been building for some time. We also need to check his heart. I'm hearing a slight murmur." "Can that be fixed?" Daniel asked, his voice calmer than he felt. "Sometimes it clears as children grow," the doctor said. "Sometimes they need closer care, medication, or even procedures. We won't know until we run more tests. The good news is he's a fighter. He's weaker now, but he's hanging on." He turned his eyes to Daniel and added gently, "The bad news is, without treatment, this would not have ended well. You brought him just in time." Daniel looked through the small glass window into the waiting area. He saw Lily sitting very still, her feet not even touching the floor, her eyes fixed on the closed door. She looked like a guard at a castle gate, small but stubborn, refusing to move until her cousin came back out. Rosa sat beside her, holding her arm like someone who was afraid the world might take her if she loosened her grip. Daniel turned back to the doctor. "Do whatever you need to do," he said. "Cost is not a problem." The doctor nodded slowly. "We'll start with treatments, then follow with testing," he said. "Someone will come speak with his legal guardian about paperwork and medical decisions." Legal guardians? The words hung in the air like something heavy. Daniel glanced at Rosa, then at Lily, then back at the doctor. "His mother is gone," he said. "His father left before he was born. Right now he's been with his aunt and her daughter." "And that's you?" the doctor asked, looking toward the waiting area where Rosa sat. "Yes," Daniel confirmed. but I will cover all his medical costs myself, every bill, every test." The doctor nodded, but his face stayed serious. "That helps," he said, "but the hospital still needs to know who is allowed to sign off on treatments and make choices. That person carries responsibility if anything goes wrong. It can't just be about money." Daniel felt a quiet ache in his chest as he listened. He thought of all the times he had signed forms for his own daughter, his hand shaking, his brain not fully understanding the long words in the middle of the pain. This time he understood clearly. It was not enough to pay, he had to stand there too. He stepped out of the room and walked into the waiting area. Lily saw him coming and stood up fast. "Is he okay?" she asked. "Is he going to wake up? Is he going to live?" Daniel crouched in front of her so they were eye to eye. "They are helping him," he said. "They say we brought him just in time. He is very sick, but he is fighting." Tears filled Lily's eyes again, but this time they were mixed with something like relief. She whispered, "Thank you." A woman in a tidy blue jacket and a badge around her neck walked up to them with a clipboard in her hands. "Excuse me," she said kindly. "I'm from the admissions office. I need to confirm who is responsible for the boy named Noah Harper." Lily stiffened. The last name Harper clearly hurt her. That was the name of the father who had walked away. She looked down quickly. Rosa stood too, smoothing her wrinkled skirt. "I am his aunt," she said quietly. "Rosa Miller." The woman nodded and wrote something down. "Are you his legal guardian?" she asked. "Do you have any papers stating that you are in charge of his care?" Rosa froze, her eyes went wide. "Papers?" she repeated, her voice small. "No, his mother just asked me to look after him if something happened to her. There were no forms, no lawyer, nothing like that. We don't have those things." Her voice cracked on the last word. "I just took him." The woman looked at her with gentle eyes, but there was worry there too. "Without legal documents, it's a little more complicated," she said softly. "We may have to contact the Child Services Department that handled his case after his mother passed. They need to know where he is and who is caring for him." The room seemed to spin for a second for Lily. Child Services, shelter being taken away, her heart hammered in her chest. She took a step back, her breathing going shallow. "Please," she blurted, her voice shaking. "Please don't take him. I'll do anything. I'll work, I'll clean, I'll pay. Just don't take him away from us." Everyone in the waiting room turned to look at her. Rosa grabbed her shoulders. "Lily," she whispered, "hush, my love, it's okay." But her own eyes were wet and afraid. Daniel watched them both. The woman with the clipboard looked uncomfortable, stuck between rules and human pain. Daniel straightened up slowly, his face calm but his eyes sharp. "Put my name on the forms," he said. His voice was steady, the same steady tone he used when making big choices in his company. The woman blinked. "I'm sorry." "Put my name," he repeated. "Daniel Cole, I am the homeowner, they are my staff. The boy is in my care now. I take full responsibility for his medical treatment. If Child Services needs to speak to someone, they can speak to me. If someone needs to sign forms, I will sign them." The woman hesitated. "Sir, that is a serious commitment," she said. "You would be listed as the responsible adult for his care. You would have to be available for calls, decisions, follow-ups." "I understand," he said. He turned his head slightly and looked through the glass, seeing Noah's small body on the bed, wires and tubes connecting him to machines. "Give me the papers." Lily stared at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Rosa put a hand over her mouth and started crying again, but this time it was a different kind of cry. The woman handed Daniel the clipboard. He read the form quickly, words about consent, responsibility, emergency decisions. He signed his name with a strong, clear stroke. When he was done, the woman smiled faintly. "All right," she said. "We'll note that. I'll still have to send an update to Child Services, but it will show that he's in the care of a stable home and a responsible guardian. That will help." She left with the papers. The moment she walked away, Lily ran forward and wrapped her arms around Daniel's waist in a tight hug before she even realized what she was doing. She froze a second later, shocked by her own boldness. "I'm sorry," she whispered, pulling back. "I didn't mean to." "It's okay," he said quietly. His hand went to her shoulder, a little awkward at first, then firmer. "You don't have to say sorry for caring about someone." She looked up at him, eyes full of gratitude and confusion. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked. "You barely even knew us before, you just saw us cleaning and serving food. You didn't have to help, you could have just called the police and we would be gone." Daniel took a slow breath. His gaze drifted toward a framed picture on the clinic wall, a photograph of a nurse holding a newborn baby, both of them smiling. It made something shift inside him again. "Because I remember what it feels like to sit in a hospital and wish someone stronger would help," he said. He looked back at her. "And because I once had a daughter and she got sick, I couldn't save her. I thought I did everything, but I still lost her. I can't change what happened then. But I can change what happens now." Lily didn't know what to say. She didn't know the whole story, but she could hear the pain behind his words. She nodded slowly and whispered, "I'm sorry about your daughter." He gave a small nod, then turned away, clearing his throat. "Let's focus on saving your cousin," he said. Hours passed, tests were run. Noah slept and woke and slept again. Lily slipped into his room whenever the nurses allowed it, talking to him in a soft voice, telling him silly stories about the house, about the time she dropped a whole bowl of soap water and made the floor into a fake swimming pool, about how she once tried to teach a houseplant to sit like a dog. Noah smiled weakly sometimes, and that was enough to keep her going. Around noon, the main tests were done, and they allowed Daniel and Rosa to bring Noah back home with strict instructions. He would need medicine at certain hours, quiet rest, and a stronger follow-up at the hospital in a few days. "We still need to check his heart more deeply," Dr. Hayes said as she walked them to the car. "I'll call you as soon as I have the full results. Don't let him run or do anything too active, and keep a close eye on his breathing and temperature." "We will," Daniel promised. Back at the house, the staff whispered as they watched their usually distant, powerful boss carry a small boy into the guest room and gently lay him on the bed. Some of them had never seen this side of him before. They were used to the sharp, precise man who spoke about numbers and tasks, not the man who smoothed a sick child's blanket and checked his forehead for fever. Rosa moved around the room, placing a small glass of water and a stack of folded towels nearby. Lily sat on the bed next to Noah's feet, careful not to shake him but close enough that he could see her when he opened his eyes. Later in the afternoon, Daniel gathered Rosa and Lily in the kitchen. The counters were clean, the room bright from the sun pouring through the windows. The same sink where he had found Lily in the middle of the night now sat empty. "We need new rules," he said calmly. "No more secrets in this house. If there is a problem, we talk about it. I am not a mind reader. I cannot help with what I don't know." Rosa nodded quickly. "Yes, sir," she said. He turned to Lily. "You are 10, he said. "You should be in school, not hiding sick children in closets and working at 3 in the morning. From now on, you will go back to class every day. I'll speak with your school. We will fix the absences together. I will arrange a driver to take you and bring you home. If you fall behind, I will get you a tutor." Lily's mouth dropped open slightly. "A tutor," she repeated. "Yes," he said. "You like to draw and read, don't you?" She nodded shyly. "Yes, sir." "Then your mind deserves the same care as your cousin's health," he said. "Brave hearts also need smart heads." A small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth even though her eyes were still tired. "Thank you," she whispered. He looked at Rosa again. "As for Noah, until we find a proper legal arrangement, he stays here," Daniel said. "He will not go back to a shelter. I've already signed as his medical guardian. I will also speak to a lawyer about helping with his overall case." Rosa pressed a hand to her chest, overwhelmed. "I don't have words, sir," she said. "I never thought," her eyes filled with tears again. "Thank you." For the first time that day, Daniel allowed himself a small smile, faint but real. "Don't thank me yet," he said softly. "We still have a long way to go." The next day, there was a knock on the door just after noon. One of the staff answered and quickly came to find Daniel. "Sir," she whispered, "there is a woman here asking for you. She says she's from Child Services." Daniel felt a strange calm settle over him, the same feeling he got before a big business negotiation. "Show her in," he said. The woman who stepped into the living room wore a simple blouse and slacks, her hair pulled back in a low ponytail. She carried a folder and a small tablet. Her face was kind but serious. She introduced herself as Ms. Parker. "I'm here regarding a boy named Noah Harper," she said. We received an update from the clinic that he is currently in your home. Rosa's face went pale. She stood behind the couch, fingers twisting nervously. Lily stood near the hallway, half hidden, watching with wide eyes. Yes, Daniel said calmly, he is here, he is sick. I am covering his medical treatment and care. Ms. Parker nodded. We are grateful he's being helped, she said. But we need to make sure everything is being done properly. From our records, Noah was supposed to be in a temporary shelter while we searched for placement. When we went to check last week, he was gone. No sign, no paperwork, no notice. That is very serious. Lily's heart pounded so loud she could almost hear it. We've been looking for him, Ms. Parker continued. Then suddenly we get a notice from a clinic that a man named Daniel Cole has signed as his medical guardian. That's a good thing in one way. It means he is safe, not out on the street, but we still need to know how he got here and who brought him. Rosa stepped forward, her voice shaking. Please, ma'am, she said. My niece died last year. Before she passed, she told me to look after Noah. I work here as a housekeeper. When they took him to the shelter, he was so scared. He was crying. Then one night, my daughter, Lily couldn't bear to listen to her mother take all the blame. She stepped out from behind the wall and spoke up, her voice small but brave. I took him, she said. Everyone turned to look at her. Her hands shook, but she lifted her chin just a little. I went there and brought him here. It's my fault, not my mom's. I didn't want him to be alone. Please don't be angry at her. Ms. Parker's eyes softened as she looked at the girl. She walked over and crouched down a bit. You went to the shelter and took your cousin? She asked gently. Yes, Lily whispered. I didn't steal him. I just took him back. He belongs with us. Ms. Parker exhaled slowly. Sweetheart, she said, I believe you did it because you love him, but there are rules for a reason. Children can't just disappear from our care. We worry when that happens. We have to make sure they are safe. He is safe, Daniel said firmly, safer than he was before. Ms. Parker looked up at him. Maybe so, she said. This is a good home, clearly, but I still have to write a report. I still have to explain how a child vanished from a shelter and ended up in a billionaire's mansion. She gave a small half-smile, but it faded quickly. That's not a story people just accept without questions. Daniel nodded. I understand. Ask what you need to ask. They sat in the living room. The big windows let in bright light shining on the long couch and soft rug. Ms. Parker asked about Noah's mother, about her illness, about the day she died. She asked about the father who had walked away. She asked how long Noah had been hiding in the house. At that, Lily dropped her eyes. 2 weeks, she whispered. He slept in the storage room. I gave him food from the kitchen. Sometimes I took extra plates. That's why there were more dishes. Ms. Parker looked down and wrote things in her folder. You must have been very tired, she said softly, taking care of him all night and still trying to go to school. Lily nodded. I missed some days, she admitted, but I couldn't leave him alone when he was shaking and coughing. Ms. Parker sighed, then turned to Daniel. Mr. Cole, she said, are you prepared to continue being responsible for this boy, not just paying for his medicine but being his legal guardian or at least his foster caretaker for as long as we need until we can find a permanent solution? Daniel looked at her steadily. Yes, he said without hesitation. He can stay here as long as he needs to. I will care for him. I will make sure he goes to school when he's well enough. I will handle his medical needs. And I will help his aunt and her daughter too. They will not be alone in this. Ms. Parker studied his face, searching for any sign of doubt, any sign that he was making a promise he didn't understand. She didn't see any. She closed the folder slowly. I can't approve it alone, she said. There's a process, a home visit, background checks, legal forms. But this is the best situation I've seen for him since his mother died. I'm going to recommend that he stays here on a temporary emergency arrangement while we work on the paperwork. Rosa let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Lily squeezed her hands together, whispering, "Thank you, God," under her breath. Ms. Parker stood. I'll need to see the child before I go, she said, just to confirm he's here and see his condition for myself. Daniel nodded. He's in the guest room resting. They walked down the hallway together. Lily wanted to run ahead and warn Noah, but she reminded herself that he was too tired to even sit up without help. When they reached the guest room door, Daniel knocked softly, then opened it. The room was quiet and warm. Sunlight fell on the bed where Noah lay sleeping, his chest rising and falling slowly. Ms. Parker stepped inside and stopped. For a moment, her strict, professional expression melted into something else, sadness maybe or tenderness. "Poor boy," she murmured. She moved closer, checking his face, the faint lines of pain around his mouth even in sleep. She looked at the bottles of medicine on the bedside table, at the glass of water half drunk. "He looks a lot better than the last time I saw him," she said. "He was shaking and crying at the shelter." She turned to Lily. "You remember that night, don't you?" Lily nodded, her throat tight. "Yes," she whispered, "I remember." Ms. Parker sighed. "I won't pretend you did the right thing by taking him without telling anyone," she said gently. "But I also won't pretend I don't understand why you did it. Sometimes the people who have the least power are the ones who love the hardest." Lily blinked back fresh tears. Ms. Parker turned back to Daniel. "I'll file my report tonight," she said. "I can't promise there won't be questions, but I can say I've seen enough to know he is safer here than anywhere else right now." She walked toward the door, then paused. "One more thing," she added quietly. "When I looked up your name, I saw something about a daughter. I'm sorry for your loss." The words hit Daniel like a quiet punch. He stiffened slightly, but his face stayed calm. "Thank you," he said. Ms. Parker nodded once and left. After she was gone, the house fell into a hush again. Rosa went to the kitchen to start dinner, moving around the counters with new, careful energy. Lily stayed by Noah's side, reading him a story from one of his favorite books even though his eyes were closed. Daniel stood in the doorway, watching them, feeling a strange mix of heaviness and hope. That evening, after the sun went down, the house felt warm and soft. The guest room lamp cast a gentle light across Noah's bed. The smell of soup drifted in from the kitchen. Somewhere in another room, the television played quietly, but no one was really watching. Daniel sat in a chair near the window, his phone resting on the arm. He had pushed work aside for the day, canceling meetings, missing calls. For once, the world of business could move on without him. This was more important. He watched as Lily carefully helped Noah drink a few spoons of warm soup, lifting his head gently, talking to him in that soft voice that made him feel safe. Noah smiled weakly and whispered, "Thank you," before drifting back to sleep. Daniel's phone buzzed. He picked it up and saw Dr. Hayes's name on the screen. His heart skipped. He stepped out into the hallway to answer, closing the door softly behind him so the children wouldn't hear his voice. "Hello," he said. "Daniel, it's me," the doctor said. Her voice was calm but serious. "I have the full results from Noah's tests." Daniel leaned against the wall, bracing himself. "Tell me," he said. "The pneumonia is strong, but we're treating it," she said. "With rest and medicine, he should recover from that part if there are no sudden complications. But the scans and heart tests showed something else." She paused. "He has a defect in his heart. It's something that's been there since birth, probably. It's getting worse because of the infections and stress." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said slowly, "that after he gets stronger from this infection, he is going to need a serious procedure. Maybe surgery. Without it, his heart will struggle more and more as he grows. It could become very dangerous." He closed his eyes. The hallway seemed to tilt for a second. "And with it," he asked quietly, "with the surgery?" "With it, he has a real chance," she replied. "Kids are strong. His chances would be good with the right team and care, but it will not be easy. It's expensive, it's scary. It requires someone who is fully ready to stand by him through all of it. This is not a quick visit. This is a journey." Daniel opened his eyes and stared at the framed picture on the wall, a simple painting of a tree with deep roots. "How soon would he need it?" he asked. "We can't operate while he's this weak," she said. "First we fight the infection, then we build his strength, but we also can't wait forever. Once he's stable, we'll have to move fast. I need to know." She hesitated, then finished quietly. "I need to know if you're willing to go through this. If you are truly ready to be the one to sign the forms, to stand there before the surgery, to wait outside the operating room to carry the risk. If you are not, we need to know now so child services can start looking for another option, even if it's not as good." Daniel looked through the small crack of the door into the guest room. He saw Lily sitting on the edge of the bed, her head bowed in silent prayer, one hand resting gently on Noah's arm. He saw Noah's chest rise and fall, his small body wrapped in blankets, fighting a battle he never asked for. He saw the picture in his own heart of another hospital, another child, another chance he never got to take. His throat felt tight, his voice came out rough. "What you're asking is if I'm willing to risk breaking my heart again," he said quietly. The doctor was silent for a moment. "Yes," she said softly, "that's what I'm asking." Daniel did not answer right away. The house around him felt so still. Every tick of the hallway clock sounded too loud. He knew that whatever he said next would not just shape one boy's future, it would shape his own soul. If he said no, he would close himself back into the safe, cold world he had built after Emily died, a world where money moved but feelings did not. If he said yes, he would be stepping back into a place with no guarantees, no control, and a very real chance of pain. He took a slow breath. He was about to speak when he heard a small sound behind him. He turned. Lily was standing in the doorway, her eyes big and wet, her face pale. He realized with a jolt that the door had not fully closed when he stepped into the hall. She had heard enough. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Is Noah going to die?" Daniel froze, the doctor still waiting on the line, the hallway suddenly too narrow for everything happening inside his chest. He stared at the little girl who had already done more for her cousin than most adults would, the girl who had washed dishes at 3 in the morning to keep a secret alive, the girl who now stood there waiting to hear if that secret was going to be taken from her anyway. He knew in that moment that whatever answer he gave both to her and to the doctor would change all of their lives forever. The hallway felt too small for the question Lily had just asked. Her voice was still hanging in the air when Daniel realized he hadn't answered yet. The phone was warm against his ear. Dr. Hayes was waiting on the line. Lily's big brown eyes were full of fear that was too big for a 10-year-old girl. "Is Noah going to die?" she whispered again, softer this time, like maybe if she said it gently the answer would hurt less. Daniel's throat felt dry. The old pain in his chest, the one he had carried since Emily died, woke up and pressed hard. He looked at Lily, then through the small crack of the door at Noah, who was sleeping under the soft blanket, his chest rising and falling slowly. He raised the phone back to his ear. "Doctor," he said quietly, not taking his eyes off the girl in front of him, "I hear you, I understand everything you said, and yes, I'm willing to do it. I will stand with him through the surgery. I will sign whatever I need to sign. I won't walk away." On the other end, Dr. Hayes let out a small breath. "All right," she said. "Then we move forward. I'll speak to the heart team and start the process. We'll need a few weeks to get him stronger and plan everything. I'll call you with dates and details. This won't be easy, Daniel, but it is his best chance." "Thank you," he said. He hung up slowly and slid the phone into his pocket. For a second, he just stood there, leaning against the wall, feeling the weight of what he had just agreed to. Then he pushed himself away and knelt down so he was level with Lily. "Look at me," he said softly. Lily's eyes, shiny with tears, lifted to his face. She was shaking not because of the cold but because of the answer she was afraid to hear. "Is Noah going to die?" she asked again. Daniel took a slow breath. "Right now," he said carefully, "Noah is very sick, that's true. His heart hasn't been working the way it should since he was born. The infection made it worse. But the doctors know what to do, they have a plan, they are going to fix his heart. It's a big thing, it's scary, but we are not giving up on him." She swallowed, "So he can live." "Yes," Daniel said. "He can live, he has a chance, a real one, but he needs you to believe with him. He needs you to be brave the way you've already been brave. And he needs me to stand there and not run away." "Will you?" she whispered. "Will you stay even if it gets scary?" He thought of hospital lights, of machines, of a small hand going still in his own. His stomach twisted, but he did not look away. "Yes," he said, "I will stay, no matter how scared I am, I promise." A tear rolled down Lily's cheek, but it wasn't just fear anymore. There was something like relief in it too. She stepped forward and leaned against his chest for a second, her arms wrapping around him in a quick, tight hug. He froze for a heartbeat, then gently put a hand on her back. Inside the room, Noah stirred and coughed, pulling them both back to the moment. Lily pulled away and wiped her face quickly. "I have to check on him," she said softly. "Go," Daniel replied. She slipped back into the room and sat by her cousin's side, speaking to him in a quiet voice. Daniel stayed in the hallway for a moment longer, letting his heart slow down. He stared at the wall, at the clean white paint, and whispered to himself, "This time we fight all the way." The days that followed felt long and short at the same time. Morning blended into night, night into morning. Life inside the big house changed without anyone planning it. The mansion that once felt like a quiet museum started to feel like something else, a place where people actually lived and felt things. Every day started with a soft knock at Noah's door and the sound of Lily's feet hurrying down the hallway. She woke up earlier now, not to wash dishes in secret, but to check his temperature, help him drink his medicine, and read him a few lines of his favorite story before school. Daniel had called the school and spoken with the principal himself. He had explained calmly but clearly that Lily had been dealing with something serious at home and would be returning to class. He arranged for extra help for her, and when the principal tried to speak politely about fees and late payments, Daniel gave a short, sharp answer. Her education is covered, put every cost on my account, she missed enough already. He also hired a tutor to come 3 evenings a week. At first, Lily thought she was in trouble. When he told her about the tutor, her eyes widened and she asked, "Did I fail? Are you mad at my grades?" "No," he said. "You are not in trouble. You were keeping someone alive while other kids were worrying about homework. The tutor is not a punishment, it's a gift. You're smart, Lily. You deserve help to catch up. I want you to have every chance you can get." Her lips trembled into a shy smile. "Okay," she whispered. School days slowly became normal again. A driver took her in the morning and picked her up in the afternoon. At school, classmates whispered about her sudden absences and sudden return in a car with tinted windows. Some kids stared, some asked questions. She did not tell them everything, but she held her head a little higher now. She knew when the last bell rang, she was not going back to small, scared life. She was going back to a house where someone with power had finally chosen to care. While she was gone, Daniel and Rosa built a new pattern inside the house. Rosa no longer carried the heavy secret alone. She moved around the kitchen with more light in her steps. Instead of worrying if leftover food would be enough for a hidden boy in a closet, she now cooked extra food on purpose, knowing there was a small patient in the guest room who needed strength. She sat with him and told him stories of his mother, good stories, not just the ones about sickness. Stories about how she used to dance while she cooked, how she would sing off-key and laugh when everyone covered their ears. Daniel checked on Noah several times a day. At first, he stood at the door, not going too close, afraid that caring too much would hurt if something went wrong. But as days passed, he found himself drawn into the room more and more. One afternoon, he brought in a small box. Inside were colored pencils and a big sketchbook. "For you," he said, placing them gently on the bedside table. "Lily told me you like drawing." Noah's eyes lit up in a way medicine alone could never make happen. "Really?" the boy whispered. His voice was still weak, but there was excitement in it now. He reached out with trembling hands and opened the box. He touched the pencils like they were something magical. "I used to buy these for my daughter," Daniel said without thinking. His voice went tight on the last word. Noah looked up at him. "What happened to her?" he asked gently. Children know how to ask hard questions in simple ways. Daniel swallowed. For a moment he thought about brushing it aside. He could say, "She moved away," or "She's not here." But that would be another lie in a house that had already held too many. He sat down on the chair beside the bed. "She got sick," he said slowly. "We did everything we could. We went to doctors, we bought medicine, we tried all the treatments, but sometimes even when you do everything right, people still die." His eyes grew shiny, he blinked hard. "I was angry for a long time. I stopped wanting to be close to kids. I stopped going near hospitals unless I had to. I told myself I would never stand outside an operating room again. I told myself it hurt too much to care." Noah listened quietly, his small fingers tracing the edge of the sketchbook. "And now?" he asked. "Now I'm here," Daniel said, "with you, and I am scared, but I'm also glad I didn't let my fear win." Noah gave a tiny, tired smile. "My mom used to say brave doesn't mean you're not scared," he whispered. "She said brave means you go anyway." Daniel's lips twisted into a soft, sad smile. "She was right," he said, "very right." Days turned into weeks. Noah slowly grew stronger. His fever came down, his cough softened, he ate a little more each day. Sometimes he laughed and the sound surprised everyone, like hearing music in a room that had been silent too long. He and Lily drew pictures together, houses, trees, superheroes with huge hearts drawn in bright red on their chests. Once Noah drew a rich man with a serious face holding hands with 2 kids and a woman. He shaded the background to look like a big house. "Who is that?" Lily asked, pointing at the man. "That's Mr. Daniel," Noah said simply. He looks less grumpy when I draw him." Daniel walked in at that exact moment and heard them. He pretended not to smile, but his eyes betrayed him. Miss Parker came back several times. She checked the rooms, took notes, watched how Noah clung to Lily's hand whenever she walked in. She asked questions about medicine schedules and follow-up appointments. She spoke to Daniel about paperwork, surprise visits, and what it meant to be a long-term guardian. "Are you sure?" she asked him one afternoon when they stood in the garden outside. The air was cool and smelled like cut grass. "This is not just a few weeks, this could be years, it could be forever. You are opening your home and your life to 3 people who had nothing. That will change you." Daniel looked through the window at Lily, who was laughing at something Rosa had said while they folded towels together. He looked at Noah, sitting up in bed for the first time without help, playing with a small toy car someone from the staff had given him. "I think that's the point," he said quietly. "I've been living in a house full of things that didn't change me. Maybe it's time for something that does." The day of the surgery came sooner than anyone felt ready for. The night before, no one slept much. The house was too full of thoughts. Lily lay awake in her small bed, staring at the ceiling, her hands pressed together. "Please, God," she whispered, "let him stay. I don't care if we're poor or rich, just don't take him away too." In his own bedroom, Daniel sat on the edge of his bed, holding the picture frame of Emily he kept on his shelf. Her smile looked back at him, bright and frozen in time. "I couldn't save you," he whispered. "I know that, but please, if there is any way, let me help save him." His voice broke at the last word. He closed his eyes and let the tears fall, not fighting them this time. Before dawn, the house woke up slowly. The car pulled up. Bags were packed. Papers were ready. Noah put on a clean hospital gown once they arrived, his small fingers clutching the edge of it. He looked so small in the big bed as nurses prepared him. Lily stood beside him, holding his hand tightly. "I'm scared," he whispered to her. "I know," she replied. "Me too, but remember what your mom said, brave means we go anyway." She tried to smile, but her lips shook. "And you're not alone, look." She pointed toward the doorway. Daniel stood there, no suit, just a simple shirt and dark pants, looking more like a father than a billionaire. Rosa stood beside him, hands folded, eyes full of love and worry. Ms. Parker was there too, quietly watching, ready to support whatever came next. Dr. Hayes walked in a moment later with the heart surgeon, a calm man with kind eyes. "We're going to take good care of you, Noah," the surgeon said with a gentle smile. "Your job is to sleep, our job is to fix your heart." Noah looked at Daniel. "Will you be here when I wake up?" he asked. Daniel stepped closer and placed a hand on the boy's hair. "Yes," he said, "I will be right outside the whole time. I'm not going anywhere." They started to roll the bed toward the doors. Lily's grip tightened. "Wait," she cried, tears poured down her face now, "just one more hug." The nurse stopped for a moment. Lily climbed up on the side of the bed and hugged Noah so gently it almost broke Daniel's heart. "You come back to me," she whispered in his ear. "I still owe you a drawing contest." Noah gave a tiny laugh that turned into a cough. "Okay," he whispered, "don't let anyone eat my dessert while I'm gone." "I won't," she promised. They pulled her back gently as the bed moved through the heavy doors toward the operating room. The doors shut behind him with a soft, thick sound. It felt like the world had just closed its lips around a prayer and was holding it inside. Waiting was the hardest part. Hours felt like days. The waiting room chairs were too hard, the lights too bright, the clock too loud. Rosa prayed softly under her breath. Lily sat curled up in a chair, clutching Noah's small toy car in her hands, turning it over and over. At one point, she stood and began to pace, her shoes making tiny sounds on the floor. "Sit, Lily," Rosa said gently. "You'll wear a hole in the ground." "I can't sit," Lily said, her voice shaking. "What if something happens and I'm just sitting?" Daniel stood near the window, his hands in his pockets, staring at the parking lot below without really seeing it. Every time a doctor or nurse walked by, his heart jumped, expecting bad news. Every time they passed without stopping, he exhaled slowly. He remembered another waiting room, another set of doors, another long day when the news had not been good. Miss Parker sat quietly in the corner, watching them all. At one point, she walked over to Daniel. "You can go home and rest if you need to," she said softly. They'll call you if anything changes." "No," he said immediately. "He's not waking up to a stranger, he's waking up to us." She nodded, seeing there was no point in arguing. After what felt like forever, Dr. Hayes and the heart surgeon finally walked into the room together. Everyone stood at once. Lily almost dropped the toy car. The surgeon's face was tired, but there was a small, soft light in his eyes. "He's out of surgery," he said. "It was a long procedure, but it went well. His heart was weaker than we hoped, but we were able to repair the problem. He's still asleep. The next 24 hours are important. His body needs to adjust, but he made it through the hardest part." Lily covered her face and sobbed with relief. Rosa fell to her knees, thanking God out loud. Daniel's shoulders sagged as if someone had just taken a heavy, invisible weight off his back. He closed his eyes and let out a breath he felt like he had been holding since the day Emily got sick. "Can we see him?" Lily asked through her tears. "Just one at a time for a short while," the surgeon said. "He has tubes and machines around him. It might be scary to see, but you can hold his hand." "I want to go first," Lily whispered. They took her in. Daniel stood at the doorway, watching as she walked slowly to the bed. Noah lay there, small and still, with wires on his chest and a tube near his mouth. Machines beeped softly. It was a scary sight, but Lily focused on the one thing that mattered: his hand. She held it gently and leaned close to his ear. "You did it," she whispered. "You were so brave. I'm here, I'll wait. When you wake up, I'm going to draw the biggest superhero heart for you." A nurse saw the way she watched the machines, her eyes darting to every change. "He's okay," the nurse said kindly. "His heart is stronger now. All these sounds mean we're watching him closely. If anything looks wrong, we'll fix it." Later, Daniel went in. He stood by the bed, looking down at the boy who had somehow pulled him back into a part of life he had tried to lock away. He remembered the moment the surgeon had called time of death on his own child. He remembered how the machines had gone quiet. Now those same kinds of machines were singing a different song, a song of rhythm, of a heart that had been fixed. He reached down and gently squeezed Noah's hand. "You fought well," he said quietly. "You're not done yet. We still have things to do, places to go, homework to suffer through." He smiled faintly. "I'm proud of you, kid." When Noah finally woke up fully, it was the next day. His eyelids fluttered. The first thing he saw when they opened was the blurry shape of Lily's face and Daniel's taller figure behind her. "Am I in heaven?" he croaked. Lily laughed and cried at the same time. "No," she said, "you're in a hospital. Heaven doesn't smell like this." Noah smiled weakly. "Did they fix it?" he asked, touching his chest lightly. "Yes," Daniel said, stepping closer. "They fixed it. Your heart still has to learn its new job, but it's stronger now, just like you." "Can I still draw?" Noah asked. "Yes," Daniel replied. "You can draw as many pictures as you want. I bought you more sketchbooks. You might fill the whole house." "Good," Noah whispered. "I want to draw a big house with too much food and no closets that feel like cages." Lily and Daniel looked at each other. They didn't need to say anything. They both understood what he meant. The weeks after the surgery were slow and careful. Noah moved from the hospital back to the guest room. He walked a little more each day, first with help, then with only a hand nearby just in case. He said he didn't like the scar on his chest, but Lily told him it looked like a superhero mark, proof that his heart had fought a big battle and won. He liked that better. Ms. Parker came again with more papers. This time she did not come with worry in her eyes. She came with something like peace. They sat around the dining table, Daniel, Rosa, Lily, and Ms. Parker, with a folder in the center. "These documents make things official," Ms. Parker explained. "Noah will stay in this home under a long-term care arrangement. Daniel Cole will serve as his legal guardian and financial sponsor. Rosa, you will remain his primary emotional caregiver and aunt. Lily, you will be recognized as his closest family and given visitation rights and involvement in decisions as long as an adult is present." "What does all that mean?" Lily asked, looking a little overwhelmed. Ms. Parker smiled. "It means he's not going anywhere without all of you," she said. "It means no more shelters, no more hiding. His file will say he has a family and a safe home." Lily's eyes flooded with tears, but this time they were almost all happy. She grabbed Noah's hand under the table and squeezed it. "Did you hear that? she whispered. "You're stuck with us." "Good," Noah said with a grin. "I like being stuck with you." The biggest change came a few months later. Noah was stronger. He was allowed to play outside again, though he still had to be careful. Lily was flying through her schoolwork, her tutor proud of how fast she was catching up. Rosa had been promoted inside the house. She wasn't just the maid anymore. Daniel had asked her to help manage more things, schedules, small events, even giving ideas on how to make the house feel warmer. One evening, as the sun was going down and the sky was painted in soft pink and orange, Daniel gathered them all in the living room. The big fireplace was off, but the room felt warm anyway because of all the people inside it. "I've been thinking," he said, standing near the window. "This house used to be a place where I hid from my pain, a place where I stacked expensive things so I didn't have to feel how empty it was. You three changed that." Rosa tried to shake her head. "We just work here, sir," she said softly. "We don't deserve." "Stop," Daniel said gently. "You are not just people who work here. You are the reason this place feels like a home now." He took a deep breath. "So I made a decision. I am not going to build my life alone anymore. I spoke to a lawyer. We are setting up something official, a trust fund for both of the children's education, school, college, everything they need. Also, this house is now legally set to transfer to both of them if anything happens to me with you, Rosa, as the caretaker until they are grown." Rosa's hand flew to her mouth. "Sir," she whispered, completely shocked, "you can't. This is too much." "It's not too much," he said. "It's right. I have more than I'll ever spend. For years, my money just sat in accounts while I walked around angry at the world. Now I want it to mean something." He turned to Lily and Noah. "You will never have to wonder where you're going to sleep. You will never have to sneak food or hide in closets. You will never have to skip school because you're afraid someone will take your family away." Lily was crying openly now. Noah's eyes were wide and shiny. "And one more thing," Daniel said. His voice softened. "If it's okay with you, I would like to be more than just the man who owns the house. I know I can never replace your mother's. I know I cannot erase the pain you've lived through. But if you want, I would like to be like a father to you." Lily's breath caught. "Like our dad," she whispered. "Like your second dad," he said. "The one you didn't ask for, but who really wants to be here." Noah stood up slowly and walked over, still a little stiff from healing, and wrapped his arms around Daniel's waist. "I always wanted a dad who stayed," he said quietly. Lily walked over too and joined the hug. "Me too," she whispered. Rosa wiped her eyes and smiled through her tears. "I think we already started being a family," she said softly. "We just didn't say it out loud yet." The house did not change on the outside. It was still big and white, still sitting on a hill with tall trees and shining windows. But inside, everything was different. There was laughter in the kitchen. There were schoolbooks and crayons on the dining table sometimes. There were shoes kicked off near the door because someone forgot to put them away. There were drawings stuck to the fridge, some of superheroes, some of a big house with 4 people standing in front of it, all holding hands. One afternoon, months later, Daniel stood in the front hall, watching Lily and Noah get ready for school. Noah's heart was strong enough now for him to attend classes part-time. He had a small bag on his back and a brave smile on his face. Lily was fixing his collar like an over-serious big sister. "Hurry up," she said, "we're going to be late." "I'm coming," he laughed. "You sound like a teacher." Rosa walked over and brushed dust from Noah's shoulder, then looked up at Daniel. "Are you ready, sir?" she asked playfully. "First day sending 2 kids to school." Daniel smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "I'm as ready as I'll ever be," he said. They all stepped outside together. The driver opened the car door. Noah climbed in. Lily followed. Before she got in, she turned around and looked at Daniel. "Thank you," she said, "for seeing me that night, for asking why I was washing dishes, for not ignoring me." He remembered that first sight of her, tiny, tired, standing on a stool at 3 in the morning, scrubbing plates with red hands, fear in her eyes, and a secret inside her heart. He shuddered at the thought of what might have happened if he had just turned away, called security, or shouted without listening. "Thank you for forcing me to see," he replied. "You changed more than you know." The car drove away. Daniel stood at the gate, watching it go, feeling something warm and strange in his chest. Not pain, not emptiness, something else. Hope. Inside the house, on a small shelf in his study, Emily's picture still stood. But now beside it there was another frame, A photo of him, Lily, Noah, and Rosa standing in the garden, all smiling, sunlight on their faces. He looked at the two frames, at the past and the present standing side by side, and for the first time in a long time, his heart felt like it was not broken, just different. He walked to the window, looked at the world outside, and thought about how many people were judged for what others saw on the surface. A girl washing dishes at 3 a.m., a boy hidden in a closet, a maid who seemed too quiet, a billionaire who looked too cold. None of them were what they looked like at first sight. Sometimes he realized the person who looks lazy is carrying a heavy secret. The child who looks bad is actually scared. The worker who looks quiet is actually fighting battles you never see. And the rich man who looks hard and distant might just be a father who lost too much and forgot how to care. All it took to change everything was one moment of stopping, one moment of asking, why, instead of what's wrong with you. Hi friends, if this story touched your heart, remember this: before you judge someone, ask yourself what they might be hiding, what they might be fighting, and how you can show kindness instead of anger. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Are you in the US, Canada, the UK, Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Jamaica, or somewhere else in the world? We would love to know. And if you believe more people need stories like this, stories that remind us to look deeper and love better, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to this channel to support our growth so we can keep bringing you powerful, life-changing stories.